Hey, this is DJ. This is Kaz. We're Buried Above Ground, and this is Speak of the Devil podcast.
Greetings from Podcastville. Episode 36 of the Speak of the Devil podcast is brought to you on February 9th, 2020. Here we go. Let's get right into the music news first. And putting a smile on this guy's face is the best music news of the day, of the week, of the month, and of the year so far is the triumphant return of the almighty Hetfield. Yes, James Hetfield is out of rehab. He recently popped up at a local auto show in California. I believe he had some of his cars there, and a lot of them, or a couple of them, or something was auctioned off for some charity. He took a lot of pictures with everybody, which was really cool. So you could see that he was looking healthy, nice and clean cut, kind of like me. Looking good again, not with the big Fu Manchu mustache and the, super long, greasy hair that just made him look old and tired. He looks well rested, so it looks like all those dates are going to work out with those big festivals. I think I heard that they have, I don't know if they're still available, one-day passes available, I think, for the Columbus date, at least. So now knowing that for sure he's going to be there, maybe I'll pick it up. You know me, I'm a big Metallica fan, so that would be pretty cool to check out. And moving on, let's say a big happy birthday to Tommy Gibbons, who is now with Farewell to Fear. He was recently on the Chris Jericho cruise and played there, had some cool photos and videos from that. And I guess not, unexpectedly, because he's a total shredder. They wanted to keep him. Come on, this guy's too good. And if you might remember, he was on actually episode 27 of this podcast. So check that out if you want to see who I'm actually talking about. But happy birthday to Tommy Gibbons of Farewell to Fear. So next we have something interesting for me that, not quite metal, but certainly hard rock, and people that came up, influencing a lot, are the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And one of their original guitar players that left in 2007 is finally now back, John Frusciante, who, for me in the story and the mythos of Red Hot Chili Peppers, he was, a big part of the riff writing and the creative elements. So they just played the first set since 2007 on February 8th in LA. Some YouTube videos, I'm sure if you just type that in, you can go check out the videos for that. So that's pretty cool to see them back. I saw them on the Orion tour, the second one, Metallica, where they headlined that, and that was really cool. What was fun about that was we got to tour all of the different stages, and then got drawn into Lars's kind of like movie room where they were showing Almost Famous, because that was the director of Through the Never, and it was super loud, and we still saw the Chili Peppers, which were awesome. But it's great to see John Frusciante back in the band, because he's very creative, and I'm sure they got an album in the works. So the next, very, very exciting for me, probably will check this tour out, is Megadeth is back together with Lamb of God, and they're going to co-headline, I think it starts in the summer. I could be a little wrong, but it might maybe late spring or something like that. It was originally rumored that it was going to be part of the Mayhem Festival. I think those promoters are trying to put the Mayhem Festival back in full force, and they were rumored to be a part of that, but I guess they have officially came out and said that they are not. This is just a co-headlining tour with the two of them, and they are going to do that, and that will be really cool to see. I would like to see that. And then finally for music, I have the Best Metal Performance Grammy winner. I know it's a little bit late, but I have had this podcast for a couple weeks, but it was actually Tool. Unsurprisingly, they haven't released an album in a long time, and this album, delivers exactly as you would want a Tool album to deliver. And the song that won was Tempest, with a 7 in the beginning instead of a T. So Tempest, if you want to check that song out. Very cool song, and Tool is definitely well deserving of a Metal Grammy. So congratulations. Now, let's move to video games. Not too much on video games, but one thing that I will highlight for me, in the early days of online, on console gaming at least, I mean, you could play online games with PCs for a long time, but on consoles, one of the first systems to really do it was, originally the Saturn, but then you had the Dreamcast, and one of the great games of the Dreamcast, especially online, was Phantasy Star Online, which, people spent tons of hours into it, and it's what's cool about it is almost like, you could almost describe it as like an action RPG, where, there's a lot of, or not action, I mean arcade RPG, where it's not super deep, it just kind of, you just kind of play some elements, you go through the boards, and you come back. Not unlike, a lot of other games that are out there, but that was one of the ones that kind of started it. So now Phantasy Star Online 2 is coming out. I guess it's betaing right now on Xbox One. So I've already seen about 20 minutes worth of video and footage on the second one, which looks very reminiscent of the second. I'm such a Switch fan. I wish they could kind of port it to the Switch, because, a game like that just begs to be portable like that, because you just, put so many hours into it that it's a game like it's not hard to sit in front of a television screen, but it'd be nice to take it on the go. So, but I don't think they have any plans to port it to the Switch or anything like that. So it is what it is. It'll be on Xbox One, and once it's available, you can count me and Phantasy Star Online 2. I probably won't be able to nearly dump as many hours into it as I did when I was a kid. I mean, gosh, I played that game a lot, as a lot of other people did, which, it definitely has a big nostalgia thing for people. And if you missed it, it might not. It might be like, who cares? But, there's so many games that kind of do that and do that better. But that was, it was one of the first. And now they're going to give it a proper, remake or update. But what everyone should care about, especially the hardcore mature people out there, is Doom Eternal, that is getting set to be released on all major platforms and Switch. Not right away, but it'll come later. I did play the first Doom. I actually played it on Nintendo. I wanted that portability and everything, but it certainly, and I had played it on Xbox One as well, and the 60 frames and the snap of the sound and everything, it definitely felt better, on those consoles. So, and I finished it, and now I'm kind of intrigued with the story, where it goes from here. The trailers are really cool, so I'll pick this up on Xbox One to, get the full Doom experience, because, I mean, right now, the truth is, we're getting ready to gear up for the next console generation, so this is going to be a really slow year for, exclusives or big games. I mean, I think Cyberpunk 2077 got pushed back again, so I don't think it might not even be coming out till late summer, or they might even delay it just to push it out for the holidays or whatever, just so that way the new systems can beef up the graphical fidelity and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, as I'm saying, there's going to be a drought of games this year, which is interesting because Nintendo announced, I mean, and they're pretty good to their word, that there's not going to be a Switch Pro in 2020. I think there still will be a Switch Pro, and I think it's smart for them to let the other systems come out ahead of that, and then at the same time, like the technology, the chips that they'll use, I think it's Moore's Law. The chips will get cheaper and faster and all that stuff, so it probably benefits them to wait to get some better NVIDIA chip for the next Switch Pro. But man, I'm chomping at the bit for a Switch Pro. I mean, the Switch is really, it's the best, culmination of so many ideas. It just, it doesn't need to have the horsepower, but if we're going to go into this next generation and really compete, it's going to need to. From what I understand in like a very basic terms, I think like teraflops are kind of like the new bits, if you will, of this generation. And I think the processing power of a Switch right now is like 1 teraflop. Then this next generation of PS5, they're going to be upwards of, I think, 10, 15, maybe even 20 teraflops. So you're going to need something that, I think right now the Xbox One is hovering around like 5 teraflops. So it's easy to kind of dumb those down and do ports and everything. But they're not going to be able to do ports of, PS5 and Xbox Series X or whatever they want to call it. But it'll be really cool to actually hear that announcement. Maybe they'll do it later this year. So just because they're not coming out in 2020 doesn't mean that Nintendo won't say that they'll announce a Switch Pro in 2020. It'll come out next year. So fingers crossed, man. I'll pre-order mine for sure. So last thing, let's move to wrestling. And man, kind of a scary time in a way. I think AEW has really creeped up on WWE in a bad way for Vince McMahon. This is competition he wasn't looking for, wanted, needed, but here it is. And the competition aside, from what I understand, there was a recent conference call because WWE is a public company, and it's easy for people to somehow get on these conference calls and listen to what's going on. I don't think you just get the dial-in number. But I think basically the suggestion was thrown out to Vince that should we still do, big picture, like horror picture, should we even do the network anymore? Should we just get rid of it because it's not making the subscribers, it's not making the money, like the metrics are all off. And knowing Vince McMahon, even just from a fan's perspective, I think it's pretty clear that he's not going to give up on the network as a whole. And I wouldn't either. It's a stupid thing. It's so hard to get anything like that off the ground that it's too big. It's got to keep going. It'd be too hard to restart it again and get everybody back. So that brings us to point 2 of what they're really worried about, or I'm worried about, is the suggestion was, well, maybe we keep the network, but maybe we sell the pay-per-view rights back to, the cable networks or whoever it is, that's doing this, because, and I guess I gotta kind of agree that they've got to be losing money, overall, because, I mean, what is it? It's $10 or something a month. So what, $120, and if you order 2-3 pay-per-views at $60, even if you just order 2, that's kind of like, let's just say you get Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, those 2. I think that was their kind of rationale, like that's how we'll make our money back. But that's it, and all the other pay-per-views are starting to feel like, Raws and SmackDowns, and people aren't getting together. Like, it's almost like if you're saying that it's valued at $10, people treat it like it's a $10 show, and they're not going to show up. And I don't know if going back to 60 is better, because I wouldn't want to necessarily pay that. So that brings us to option 3, I guess, is that they're saying, maybe they'll just increase the price of the network. $5, $6, $7. Maybe it'll be like, I'm sure there'll be like basic and premium. Like if you want WWE Network Basic, you get all the shows and the back catalog, and maybe whatever their main event kind of crap and all that. But then if you want the pay-per-views, you'll have to spend an extra $6.99, $7.99. It'll be $16, $17.99, which isn't out of the question. I mean, it's still a good value, and ultimately I guess I would probably rather a price hike, especially than going back to the archaic buy a pay-per-view kind of thing. I don't like that at all, and I don't think other fans will. But I do agree that keeping it where it is kind of it devalues it a little bit. Like, should I watch this? I don't know. It's I only spent $10, and I can watch the replay. So, I don't know. We will see what WWE decides. And that is it for episode 36. Ha! See you on the next Speak of the Devil podcast.